For those of you who don't know Bionic Dance, she's been in the YouTube atheist community for a very, very, very long time. She did a guest appearance in one of Armored Skeptic's videos years ago, before I even started YouTube. That's where I first heard about her, when Professor Stick and I were a lot smaller than we are now. I remember her commenting on one of his videos, and he and I fangirled out about it for about 15 minutes straight. Now our channels have grown, and I feel honored to get to have somebody on my channel as a guest who's been on YouTube for so much longer than me. So thanks for coming, Bionic Dance.
I'd say my pleasure, but sounds more like it's yours.
Okay, let's get into it.
Okay, in this video I want to talk about why religion is necessary for society. So, to start with, I would like to make a distinction between a micro level and a macro level, where I don't think religion is necessary for the individual, but I do think religion is necessary for society as a whole.
If it's not necessary for the individual, if the individual isn't following the religion, then what good is it going to do for society? You can't have the macro level without the micro. The big is made out of the small.
Now, the reason why is... Well, there's multiple reasons why. The first is, if you look at the average IQ of a university graduate in philosophy, I think it's 129. Could be, it's around there, right? And so the average IQ of society on the wider scale is about 100. What this means is that in order to read books in ethics requires a pretty decent IQ to begin with, and if you can't have the average person reading books in ethics, because the average IQ is 100, and that means without religion, there will be nobody to tell them what good and bad is. And so, because they won't have their own self-developed notion of good and bad, there will therefore be no ethics within society without a religion.
We're all taught from a very early age what good and bad are. Don't hit your sister. Don't cut in line. Don't take what isn't yours. No God required. No Einstein-level IQ required. The idea that there would be no ethics in society without religion is ludicrous. And which religion? No two have exactly the same morals and ethics. Many are often quite opposed on certain issues, and every religion has denominations within it. Unless you pick one religion as our guide, you'll have chaos. But if you tell some people that their religion is getting thrown under the bus, you'll have chaos. So what you gonna do?
Not to mention the fact that our sense of right and wrong stems heavily from empathy, the ability to put ourselves in other people's shoes, to build models in our minds of situations and then place ourselves in those situations. That originally became evolutionarily advantageous, God, those two words are hard to say together, for hunters who were trying to plan out how they were going to work together to take down a large animal. But at this point, it's the basis for our entire system of morality. Now, that doesn't get us all the way there. Most of the time, that'll prevent us from killing somebody, or stealing, or committing some heinous crime. But we have cultural morality to fill in the gaps where our innate sense of right and wrong leave off. And honestly, so far, religion hasn't done much for us. So far, we've got people using religion to justify hating just about everybody who might be different from them in some way. I'd suggest we give up on the Bible, go with our inherent built-in morality, stop talking to people like they're idiots, and rely on our culture and great thinkers to pull us through the rest.
Right? And so there's an IQ limitation in terms of developing secular ethics.
He's leaving out the concept of the evil genius. You know, like Lex Luthor or Dr. Evil. Smart people make the best bad guys. His idea needs to be seriously rethought, or the entire comic book industry and the spy movie genre will be destroyed. Destroyed! Incidentally, I'd make one hell of a Batman villain. Come on, admit it.
So on the social level, I think we need religion for good and bad. Now, the other thing is community, right? If you have a society where they previously had religion, and the religion falls out of favor with the society, well, then the institutions and communities and social norms associated with that set of beliefs are going to fall out of place, right?
The premise being that we cannot have community without religion? Now, he may look like a dork, but I'm sure this guy's been in various communities, social groups that didn't have religion as a component. I know I have. I'd better have. I'm an atheist, and if church was the only way I could make connections with friends and family, I'd be screwed.
Really? You think he's been in various communities that don't have religion as a component? Okay, I mean, maybe.
Well, there are communities within communities. My weekly board game night doesn't have a scrap of religion in it. Well, unless the game we're playing has us fighting evil demons or something. And I'm sure he's been in something like that. And I'm sure that group had rules, written or unspoken, that needed to be followed, no God required.
You definitely don't need religion to build communities. In fact, in all seriousness, I'm sure he's been in plenty of other non-religious communities too. It seems like he's just not thinking his argument through thoroughly enough.
And so, again, going back to the IQ thing, well, if you don't have some new authority to come in and tell people what good and bad is, then what's going to happen is you'll have people who are developing these more questionable or more unsavory forms of social norms.
Okay, I'm sorry. I have to address the elephant in the room. Look at these books in the background. Why are they stacked haphazardly? Why are they covering a picture of the Mona Lisa? They look like they're mostly college textbooks. He certainly didn't take every single one of those college classes and work his way through all of those books. Where is this dude? Is he at a library? No self-respecting library would stack their books like that. Honestly, he probably did it in front of the books this way so he could give the impression that he read them, that he's intelligent, lend credibility to what he's saying. And he probably thought that we'd be so stupid that we wouldn't even realize it.
If I did that, it'd be comic books in my DVD collection, so I could give the impression that I'm a complete geekatron. Just saying.
Collection, you say? I know a little something about collections. I'm a fan of collecting things. Anyways, dude's kind of an arrogant dick, honestly. I'm sorry, I mean, he seems like he's non-religious like me, and I appreciate that in somebody. But talking down to people like this is definitely the wrong way to get people to like you. FYI. If you ever see this, that's something you should work on. Okay, moving on.
Institutions, right? So, I would say if you look at some of the new risings up in social media, for example, Tinder, that has been basically correlated with the rise in atheism, right?
Wait, what? I don't use Tinder myself, and the only Google articles I can find on the subject of atheism and Tinder are atheists wondering whether the site will yield results for non-believers. And correlated with devising atheism? I'm pretty sure atheism was around long before Tinder existed, so what in heck does he mean by that?
And it is the case that, at least anecdotally speaking, a lot of atheists tend to be also moral nihilists. They take the "it's just your subjective preference" to the logical extreme. Now, I don't think moral nihilism is a coherent position in and of itself, but I did another video on that. But without religion, it seems to be the case that your society begins to be plagued with these social ills that weren't there beforehand, right? And
which social ills exactly? Let's hear some specifics, because I honestly have no idea what he's talking about here. And I could name more than a few things I'd consider social ills that exist thanks to religion. The idea that either one causes good or bad all by itself is short-sighted at best, ludicrously stupid at worst.
We need evidence. He should know that better than most.
If you think about law, well, law is a threat backed by violence to some extent. It's not always a threat backed by violence, but to some extent it is. Well, in religion, they have threats backed by violence, right? If you don't behave morally, if you don't behave good, you will be burnt in hell. That's the image they give you, right? And without that image, people don't have anything to fear, and they don't have any reason to behave morally or good.
And religiously inspired eternal torture is the only possible thing people might fear that could cause them to act morally or good. Apparently. Jail isn't enough. Being shot by the police isn't enough. It has to be eternal torment, or people will act like complete jerks. Right. Not only does this once again assume that everybody needs religion, the same religion, with the same values, but that nobody, religious or otherwise, has enough empathy to not wantonly hurt other people. I'd like to have more confidence in human nature than that. Perhaps an overly optimistic hope, but still.
Sure, religion has the old carrot and the stick. Follow their rules and you get the carrot, heaven. Break the rules and you get the stick, hell. But there are a couple of interesting things to note about that. First, different religions have different carrots and sticks. In fact, some religions don't have carrots or sticks at all.
Which religion does he expect we'll be following here, the one that society can't live without? We've got quite the menu available. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure we all know which one he's on about, but he could at least be honest enough to say it.
It's fine. I'll say it for him. He's obviously talking about Islam.
Yep, that's the one I figured too.
I bet you'd be hard-pressed to find somebody who would instantly become a murderer if they found incontrovertible proof that God wasn't real. We don't murder because we have empathy. We don't murder because we have this built-in morality. It ultimately has nothing to do with religion's carrot and stick. We don't steal because we don't want to go to jail, and because we don't want it to happen to us. We can see ourselves in the shoes of the victim of a crime. We don't want to be that victim, so we don't like it when we witness it happening to somebody else. It's the same reason why we can't stand seeing an animal dying on the side of the road. It hurts. We don't want another living thing to feel pain. We don't need to imagine ourselves in that position to know that it's bad. Religion isn't the only carrot and stick game in town. And I'd argue that it's the least important one, because it's honestly hard to keep people subjugated without logical reasoning to back it up. You have to shut down logical thought to get them to buy the carrot and the stick. With the legal system, it's easily understood and can be logically followed to a conclusion. I don't want anybody to steal from me, thus, no stealing allowed is a good law. But with religion, it's all about not hurting God instead of not hurting you, as it is with the legal system.
Sometimes it's even just about hurting God's feelings, the pansy.
If people can see a direct logical line from the rule to a benefit to them personally, then it's a lot easier to get them to follow it. That's why a child is a lot more likely to do what you tell them to if you explain your reasoning, as opposed to saying, because I said so. Now, as I was saying a second ago, about having different carrots and sticks, Jehovah's Witnesses don't really have much of a stick at all. If you die and you don't believe it, you're just dead. There's no hell to them. So believing Jehovah's Witnesses don't really have a stick at all. On the other hand, people who once believed it but don't anymore do have a stick to keep them in. They'll lose every family member and friend they have if they decide to leave. But at that point, they're a lot more likely to just fake it and do what they want when they're alone. The stick is effectively sidestepped. They do still have a pseudo-stick though. If you don't follow the rules, you won't see your dead family again, for example. I just think the threat of torture as a stick is way more widely effective. At least partially because not getting to see your dead family members again isn't even really a stick. It's more of a reverse carrot. You get to see your family members if you stick with God. Jehovah's Witnesses' only real stick is the shunning bit. As I was saying, some groups don't have a carrot or a stick. Some versions of Buddhism don't believe in reincarnation or continuity of life or any of that other good stuff. They just have a specific philosophical outlook on life. Now, the fact that there are people in this society who are non-religious in itself doesn't prove that religion isn't required for society. You did mention that in the beginning, but it shows how unreliable religion is as a self-imposed rule book. If it were worth its weight, we wouldn't need secular governments at all. But we do. So as far as I can tell, religion is 100% useless and unnecessary, and in fact downright harmful in too many cases. That's just the way I see it.
I think it's worth noting that the proportion of religious people in prison versus non-religious is rather telling. Either atheists are too smart to be caught by the police, or believing in God is far less of a deterrent against misbehavior than just wanting to do the right thing. I don't think this guy's stick is as effective as he'd like to pretend.
Maybe he can borrow Professor Stick for a minute.
Hey, put me down! Don't hit that guy with me!
Unless, again, in theory, it's possible to be placed off society with a secular ethics, but that's a conversation for another time.
No, it's not. This entire video has been about how religion is necessary for society. Now he's saying that there's a possible rebuttal to this idea, but he only wants to discuss it later. If his premise in this video might be undermined by an opposing or alternate view, why not discuss it now? Seems like a bit of a cop-out to me.
So with that being said, thanks for watching.
Thanks, Bionic Dance, for coming on my channel. I really appreciate it.
I enjoyed working with you. Glad to have been here.
You've been super easy to work with. Hopefully I can get you back on sometime. Don't forget to check out mine and Bionic Dance's social media and subscribe to her channel.
You know, or else.
Links are in the description as always, and you can click the annotation end screen card thingamajigger there too to get to her channel. That's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching, guys.